It's for today, but it
Oh,
was
it's for
for an
today.
hour ago. Yeah.
Oh. Well, we're definitely late then.
Yeah.
No, it's right now for me.
Is it?
Maybe it's some weird time zone thing.
23:16, yeah, right now.
Heck, because it was wrong for mine.
Oh, I don't know. People will complain about it. I weren't really paying attention. I was just like, quick, get it scheduled. Just get it scheduled. Let's go. Let's go. Let's talk about some Cata for a couple of hours. Hi, guys. Hello, everyone. Only I do the wave.
Hello.
I get to do the weird wave that makes everyone feel uncomfortable, not you. Don't start encroaching on my shit, go.
What was it, Tom Hanks? What was it, Wilson? What was that movie? Is that where that meme's from, where he's got his hand on his hip and he's waving?
And he's waving. Yeah. Is that Forrest Gump?
No. What's the one where he's got the...
Castaway?
Castaway, yeah. It must be Castaway. I've never seen it, though.
I've not seen it for a long, long time. I don't know. It's got to be 20 years, I would have thought, surely. But hi, guys. Hello, Go. Hello, Jay. I was just seeing if I remember both your names, because obviously it's always weird getting two new guests on. I have to try and get right. So that's Jay, that's Go. I probably will mix you both up because you're both as handsome as each other. And hello, everyone in chat. It is that time of the week again. It's time to talk about Cataclysm. And it's going to be that time of the week again on Wednesday when it should be Season of Discovery, because Go made an executive decision after the last Season of Discovery podcast and said, you know what, fuck Season of Discovery. I want to do 2 Cataclysm podcasts a week, minimum. And I was like, are you sure, mate? Like, are you sure? And he was like, no, we need to do it. Like, this is what we need to do. So that's actually Go's fault that we won't be doing a Season of Discovery podcast for a couple of weeks, but I was really keen to carry him on. So Go, what's your thoughts on that?
That's accurate to the T. Yeah, that's a fair assessment of how everything went down on the last show on Wednesday. Yeah, because I've spent more than 10 times of my game time the past week has been playing the Cataclysm beta. I've dabbled in SOD a little bit, but the Cata hype it's getting more and more real the closer we get to prepatch. So yeah, SOD's taking a backseat. We're full sending Cata. Like, let's go.
Do you remember when Go didn't want to play Cata?
I know.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah,
We've done it.
Somebody find it.
We've done it.
We need a clip of me saying, "Oh, Cata, no, I'm never playing that. This is a shit game."
Well, you didn't say it like that. You've always been open-minded. You've never been ignorant to it. But you did say, I don't know. You was like, I don't know, bro. I don't think I'll be playing Cata, but I'll have a look at it. You was still, even though you was trying to sound like you was open and positive about it, you was still actually, it was steeped in negativeness. You was still like, I'm not playing that shit. And now look at you.
I can't log off, dude. Like, I get on there, I just start doing random stuff that is gonna be deleted in a month when the beta's over with and PTR's finished for raid testing and everything's live. If the beta's still up, I'll probably still play the beta instead of the live Cata and try to find groups.
Yeah, you'll be on the beta while we're all actually on Cata. So, serious question. Obviously, guys, I just want to make it clear to you that are in chat already and you're the early birds. We don't want much, bullshit talk at the start. We're just having a little chat, just for 5-10 minutes, just to let people get in so they don't, miss too much of it. So we will be talking shit just for 5-10 minutes, but then we're, really cracking on with the Shaman stuff. But I am intrigued in what's changed, Go, for you. As in, is it the fact that Cata is just better than you thought it was going to be, or Season of Discovery, the newer phases that have come out are not as good as you hoped, or a bit of both, or is it something completely different?
Every time I'm trying to do something on the beta, it just feels fresh and new. So it's like Season of Discovery, they've added some stuff, but it all still kind of felt the same. It's like, oh yeah, the incursion event. We did those quests during the AQ gate opening event. Yeah. I've done that. So everything on Cata, it's new reps, it's new quests, it's new zones, and I'm just excited to go around and do everything. I'm doing every single quest imaginable. I got Lore Master on the beta. Like I'm not
Jesus.
I'm not fucking around, dude. I'm doing every quest.
Oh
like,
man,
just so
I
that-
mean, I want to end the podcast there. I got to be honest with you. I thought I was no life in the beta. You know, like
nah.
that's terrible because I spend more time on the beta off stream than I do on stream. Because on stream, I feel like the only interesting thing to do with the boys, you know, with the viewers and that, is to go and do heroics. But obviously, I'm on there a lot during the day. Yeah, doing other things, like I said to you earlier, doing Toll Barra dailies and fishing and cooking dailies and like lots of things that I'm looking at to make sure that they're how I expect them to be. But Lawmaster, I mean, you've kind of took it to a whole new level.
It was kind of intentional, I guess, because I wanted to do every quest in every zone, and before I knew it, I got the achievement, and I was like, oh, yeah, cool. I've done almost every quest. And I've started to find out all the daily quests. I went to Tolbarad, did the 6 daily quest over there yesterday. I got to try to farm my rep up so that I can get the Tolbarad rep gear because I need that on the beta. I don't know why I need it, but I want to get the staff and I want to have like a nice 346 weapon. I've been looking at pre-raid gear. I had this whole spreadsheet of like Balance Druid pre-raid BIS options. I'm full. I'm going into it as hard as I can.
So on that, I want to just touch up. No, first, please. I've got to write this down so I don't forget though. So let's Jay, welcome back. Let's not let Jay sit there like a fucking banana. Let's get Jay involved in the conversation. Then I've got a couple of things that I do want to talk about.
Amazed. Just amazed by Go.
I am.
Just by Go. He's gonna rock up next week with like every mount in the game, every achievement. He's going to have cleared the first raid of the first tier of content before it's actually released. I don't know.
I'm scared to start archaeology because I haven't done it in so long, and I just remember watching Scotty start doing archaeology on one of the podcasts.
That was the last time I was on.
He was super fixated on archaeology, and I'm like, I'm going to be worse than that. Like, I'm going to sit there and just like have Red Bull lined up ready to go for like a 36-hour archaeology session or something.
Oh god.
Yeah.
Sounds horrible.
Oh no, it's going to be great. But I want to just I don't normally do this at the start of a show, but it's only because it's stuff that I've been looking at. So at the moment, like some of you guys that are clearly here because you enjoy Cata, you know, you're looking forward to Cata, you want to hear as much about Cata as possible. And then you'll look about and there's a lot of doom and gloom and stuff. Like what Cheb's just said in chat and what I've put pinned on the screen, which seems to have disappeared, is absolutely accurate. You know, like Go is living proof of how successful Cata would be if Blizzard stopped playing games. You know, so if they really put some focus into Cata and got the beta working properly, you know, started communicating with us. Now, we've got someone who thought all they was going to do was play Season of Discovery for the rest of their days to like now be playing the beta more than any of us. You know, that's a testament actually to how good Cata is. That's not what I wanted to say, but I wanted to touch on that because that was a really good point, Chebs. But what I wanted to say is I've been looking at like the guild structure and everything over the last week or two, but we've actually been having big discussions about it the last few days. So there's a lot of Cata resources that are now starting to become available. So I wanted to bring it up because, you know, like Cata Sims. So what you normally use, the RAF Sims, like that is slowly being updated. I think like Unholy DK, Blood DK. There's a few classes that are actually working on it now. So if you use the RAF Sims GitHub, you're going to be able to now use that for Cata, kind of, for some classes, but it's being updated. That's my BIS. Is a loot system that I've spoke about numerous times on the channel, and that's what we're going to be using. That is updated to Cata. So if you want to see like a really clear, easy way of seeing the loot that drops from each boss, go on that'smybis.com. You'll need to add the That's My Bis bot to your Discord, but you could just do that as a one-man band. You could like create yourself a Discord server, add That's My Bis, and then you can go on there and, you know, look around at all the loot and stuff. So you can use That's My Bis even just on a personal level to start structuring how you want your Bis list to look and items that you're interested in, blah, blah, blah. And then another one is actually a guy from the stream. Han is here. I don't know if he's here. If he's not, then never mind. But Raiders Retreat is another really, really good resource at the moment. I'll put it in both chats. But it's a Cataclysm like dedicated website that he's doing himself, just because he loves Cataclysm. He wants Cataclysm to be a success and all of that. I'm trying to put it in Kick, but I can't find Kick. Where's Kick? Did that put it in both? No, there. But yeah, it's just like a really good website. Still like in development, if you like. So it's not like got every boss guide, every class guide on there yet. But there's a lot of information that you can find on there, and everything that I've looked at has been really well written, like spot on. And again, not affiliated with me whatsoever. Like absolutely nothing to do with me. Like doesn't matter to me whether you go and look at it or not. But like I know the effort that this guy's putting in, and I don't feel like any other website, including Wowhead, is putting any effort into Cataclysm at all at the moment. So, I'd rather shout out the places that I know are putting that effort in. So if you want a quick place to look at the boss guides on there, it's got everything that you need to know, all the abilities, what you need to look out for each class. Again, just really well written. So just give it a look. I'll try and remember to actually put that all in the description as well. But that was it. So there's more and more resources for Cata popping up outside of the ones that you're used to going and looking at. So if you're just sick to death of looking at things and like nothing's happening, there are people that care about Cata where some of this stuff is actually moving. That was it. Sorry, you guys.
I've just been waiting for 85upgrades.com.
Me too. Yeah, I keep looking at 85 upgrades and nothing. That's why I wanted to point out that's my BIS, because even though it's not exactly the same, you can do a similar thing. You can instead of using 85 upgrades, you can use that's my BIS to structure the items that you want in each slot and the items that you're interested in. So again, it's not 85 upgrades, of course, for that kind of thing would be better, but will we get one? I don't know.
So Jay, what have you been up to prepping for Cata before we get into this shaman discussion?
You don't want to know the answer to that because it involves furries. I've got my warlock leveled and geared. It's ready to go. My professions are ready. I have got a priest that's like level 7. I'm trying to prep it so that I'll have 2 accounts with like a character I want to play, as well as then a gathering character, so I can sit and be like doing a dungeon on one and gathering on the other, or I can switch and vice versa. So I'm kind of getting that ready at the moment, but I've kind of not done loads on Cata at the moment, which I should do more, but we'll get there. I'm looking forward to prepatch. I'm really looking forward to prepatch.
Hell yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
All right. Drogba, I saw the super chat came out. Big Drogba, one of your homies, Scotty. Thank you.
Yeah, big old Didier Drogba. No message though. I mean, come on, don't be lazy, mate. Ask us a question or something. Which leads go on nicely to what he was about to say while I made a gin. I'm fairly sure he was about to say something about that.
We need to absolutely grill Jay the hardest questions that you can think of about the shaman class during this podcast. So if you think of a question and you're like, oh yeah, this is going to stump this guy, he's not going to have an answer, hit us with a super chat. We'll post it on the screen, help support the show and keep us back talking about Cataclysm a few times a week now. So yeah, thanks in advance for any support that happens during the show.
Yep, we do appreciate it.
And thanks for trying to throw me under the bus, Kay.
No, I know that you feed off of the challenge and you're like, oh, yeah.
Okay, so today we are going to be deep diving as deep as we can. We are on a time constraint tonight, as in we've got 2 hours. So at this moment in time, we've probably got about an hour and 45 minutes after all the shit talk at the start. And we're going to get through as much as we can. If for some reason we need a second part, like we did with the Druid and the Paladin, we needed 2 podcasts for both of those, then we will come back. So, there's no stress. We'll just get through as much as we can, whilst also being as informative as possible. Because ultimately, I would say that the goal of the podcast for the deep dives is more aimed at raids. We are sort of aiming it more at, like, what do you need to know about raiding as this class? How has it changed from Wrath? How good is it ultimately? Like, will it be something that you want to play? and Jay as the shaman, well, returning, like multiple time returning shaman guest, I think he'll be able to sell it to you pretty well because I don't know, he's a bit of a totem enjoyer. He loves smoking the totem pole.
I do love a good chunk of wood.
Told you. Okay.
Which race has the best totem style? Aren't they all different? Dwarf totem?
Dwarf.
Okay.
It's a beer keg. It's amazing.
You've sold me.
That was all he wanted to know.
Aside from the fact that I'm basically a dwarf anyway, I'm 5'8" with a ginger beard, but like I'm always gonna try and sell you on dwarf, but dwarf is just the best. It's not the best racials, it's not the best performing your alliance, but aside from that, it's
best archaeologist.
It should be dwarf. Yeah, true.
So there is that. All right, so where do you want to start? Unless you've got anything else, Go or Jay, either of you, we can just dive straight in. Where do you want to start?
Let's get it.
Where do you want to start?
I feel like there's this YouTuber at the moment, and I don't like talking shit about other YouTubers. That's like, that is not me. I don't like drama. I don't like, I get that everyone's just doing whatever they can to get some views and stuff, which is fine. But there's this YouTuber at the moment. And he makes a lot of Ellie Shaman content, like making it sound like they're the best thing in the world. I'll be honest with you, he's from up north in England, well, sort of northwest of the country. And I feel like it's just elemental shaman fucking propaganda most of the time. Oh, hang on. What? You make Ellie Shaman, you're from North... Yeah, it's you.
Am I from the northwest?
Yeah.
You lost me at that. I was like, I don't know who he's talking about at this point.
You live more northwest than I do.
Do I?
Yeah.
I live just outside Southampton.
Oh, maybe you don't. I thought you was up near Lancaster. But that's where you're gonna go. All right. So he will be up there soon. But anyway, I was talking about Jay with his elemental shaman propaganda, so we should probably start there.
Ellie is probably, I'm going to argue it's one of the most improved classes from Wrath to Cata. It has issues in Wrath. It has, Fire Elemental is such a great thing. It does a decent amount of damage. It doesn't snapshot properly. It competes with other totems, so you can't, drop a totem of Wrath, so you get your Warlock snapshot with Demonic Pact. You have to wait for that before you drop your Fire Ellie. It's just, there's issues with the spec. They are just a glorified bad Demo Warlock in terms of totem of Wrath. They don't give as much spell power as other classes. So there's a lot where it's like, they're just not quite as good as they could be. And then in Cata, we have Burst with Earthshock and Fulmination, which just is amazing. It does so much damage, gives you so much mana back as well. You have 0 cooldown Chain Lightning, and the fact that you have your Mastery just means that you're in dungeons. You could literally just set a macro for Chain Lightning and just go AFK. It's great. You just do so much damage, and it just feels good to play. They also have some of the most mobility of any class in the game. Like, everyone looks at Hunter and goes, oh, they have Aspect of the Fox, and they have loads of instant spells. You can do your entire rotation on the move as an Ellie Shami. It's crazy. And in PvP, I know someone said that they got nerfed in PvP. They really didn't. Ellie Shami is maybe not the first phase, like the first season, but everything after that, Ellie Shami is very, very competitive in arenas.
What was the difference in the first phase? Again, I said I was going to put you through the ringer. Like, yeah, what is it? Just the lower amounts of resilience being a bit squishier as a malware, or
you tend to want to pair with a secondary caster, and that in itself is quite painful because they just don't come online till later on. Obviously, you then have the staff that drops in, the legendary staff from Firelands, which is just insane for PvP because you can burst. I think I worked out at one point you could get 17 spells to land around the same time if everything procced with the legendary stuff.
Oh yeah, I think I remember hearing you talk about that. Yeah,
Like 17 spells. Like you could literally just machine gun someone and insta kill them. Just in case anyone wonders, on was it Whitemane we played the last server? I was 2.3k in twos and like 2.1k in threes, with random solo queue partners. Like Shami in itself is just very good.
Yeah, and you've always been obviously you've always been a PvE player as well, but like, you know, for as long as I've known you, you've always loved PvP as an Ellie Shaman. Like, even talking, do you remember the duels we used to have week 1 of Fresh Wrath on Feckle, where we'd be dueling as Ellie Shaman versus Prop Paladin, like, and we just like, yeah, so I know you've always loved your PvP. But okay. So, like, Ellie, like, I would agree absolutely on everything you said in terms of, like, it's transformed from something where it's like, yeah, you take an Ellie Shaman to now where I feel almost like you want Ellie Shaman, and not one, I would say multiple. So this is something we were talking about earlier, which I want to get your thoughts on. So on the basis that in 10-man progress and 25-man progress, and I mean progress. I mean, like, let's say you're progressing on Sinestro, you're progressing on Cho'Gall, Nefarium, whatever you're progressing on. Like, if you wipe there for the night and you're going back the next day and you're like, right, let's rethink our roster. What are we going to take back? On the basis, Ankh doesn't share a cooldown with combat reses, and you're limited in Cata. In 10-man, you've got 1 combat res. In 25-man, you've got 3 combat reses. And Ellie Shaman is no longer really a support class. Both Enhancement and Ellie actually pump to the point where it's like, you're not just taking 1 for buffs, you're taking 1 for damage. And obviously it brings some buffs as well. Great. Do you see Shaman starting to be a bit more stacked on the basis that they can pump and they don't actually abide by the combat res counter?
I think they're going to be a bit of a strange one because certainly Ellie Shami is probably one of the most versatile DPS, and you're going to see a pattern there. And I think this is why I like Shami so much, is because it's so versatile, right? So I'm going to use what is the name of the boss? Chimeron, the doggo in BRD.
Yeah, double heads and all
that boss is on progress one of the hardest bosses to progress because it isn't a mechanic fight, it's purely a numbers fight, right? You can drop a healing rain there and do 20 to 30% of the healing between that and healing stream tome as an actual healer, right? It's not a difficult fight in terms of pure DPS. The rage timer isn't going to be too much of an issue, but you can bring so much utility to that group. Obviously, like Scott said, you bring in buffs. You now bring the big spell power buff, which, you know, puts you on comparison with demo warlocks. They also have a really, really weird damage profile in that because Fire Ellie is a good chunk of what you would be consider your burst cooldown, it lasts for 2 minutes. So if you get, you know, a good snapshot of a Fire Ellie totem down, that's going to last for 2 minutes and do insane amounts of damage. So it might not be something where you see Ellie Shami's, you know, you start the boss, press Bloodlust, and skyrocket to the top of the meters, but you are going to see them consistently throughout the fight just keep climbing. And that's why, you know, I just feel like they're so strong. There's also a glyph that you can run, which is the Fire Elemental glyph, at any fight that's going to last 7 minutes, of which during progress, some of them can. You then have 2 Fire Elementals in a fight, and your damage just multiplies. Like, it's so much stronger. So, like, time to kill is going to be quite important, getting that right. But, yeah, just generally, Ellie Shami is just going to pump in all phases, and they get better throughout the expansion as well.
Yeah. Cool. Any questions, Go?
He's just throwing so much knowledge at me right now. I don't know how to what to ask. I'm like, yeah, it sounds good, sounds fun. Like,
but it's when you say 2 minutes, that was what I, you know, really sort of really fixated on there is thinking like, yeah, you've got a big cooldown that you can snapshot that lasts 2 minutes, which is obviously like massive. And then going back to the whole fact that it could be a good class to stack because you don't want people dying in your raids during progress. But if you've got someone or a couple of DPS that die and can get back up and carry on without wasting combat reses that you might need on healers or tanks, like that for me is fucking huge. Like that just makes that gives you such a buffer when it comes to progress that especially while people are learning as well, where like people will fuck up because they don't quite understand the mechanic. They die, cool, just get back up. And then you've got like, let's say you had 3 or 4 Ellie Sharmers in a group, all snapshot in a good fire Ellie that's going to last 2 minutes. Like, I don't know. I'm a little bit worried with the whole Ankh not counting towards the combat rest timer because
it genuinely makes Chamois so. It is cheesy, and this is one of the things that you'll notice is Atramedes. I remember during original prog of Atramedes, during the current patch and things like that, I could run away and take the beam during the air phase and soak the beam at the furthest possible away area of the room, die, Ankh, and that beam is, I've just wasted 15, 20 seconds of the beam during a 35-second air phase. We haven't used to use any drums or anything like that. So, you can do crazy stuff with that in terms of cheesing mechanics as well, which is awesome.
Yeah, especially if they was finely tuned where actually you don't want to be wasting gongs, you literally can't afford to waste gongs week 1, which you might not be able to on heroic. I remember on Whitemane, I know Whitemane's no, I don't want to say a bad example, but as a private server, we don't know what the health levels are going to be on Classic, but you'd go pretty close to the wire on the amount of gongs that you've got available. I remember killing Atramedes with the last one remaining. And it's like, so yeah, if you can literally save 1 to 2 gongs by dying and getting back up, you have 2 Shamans do that. Fucking easy fight now, isn't it? Just literally a free kill.
Yeah, 100%. You also have Nature's Guardian, which I think is something that people really underestimate how strong it is. And you can take it it's a talent in the Resto tree, but it's only the 2nd tier. So any Shami can take it. And if you get hit below 35% health, you instantly heal for... Well, I say heal. You gain 15% max health, but you also gain that in actual health as well. So it is something that, during progress is something you can really abuse with that and soak a lot of mechanics, get hit by things, and you're just going to survive it because you're just tanky. You also naturally have, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, Ancestral Resolve on the first tree, which is 10% damage reduction while casting spells.
Yeah.
And Elemental Warding in the Ellie tree, which is 12% in total if you take all the points. So you can naturally have 24% magic damage taken reduction while casting spells and a cheat death.
Yeah, that is pretty huge. Goes creaming his pants as a boomy. Why have we not got that stuff?
and
it's crazy.
You're sure Shamans aren't tanks?
Well, they have got a taunt, yeah. And got actually got a hard taunt in Cata as well, which I think I asked you about that last time, right? Didn't I? Yeah, the overall. Yeah, I said to you, what do you think? Do you think we should see some crazy shit? But actually, when you really think about it, yes. When we put everything together that we spoke about in the class picking podcast and this one, if you're to be able to solo tank stuff, if you've got 3 or 4 Ellie Shamans and there's a tank swap mechanic but you just want flat out DPS, you could have your Shamans rotate, taunting the boss and dying and anking, and only 1 tank fights that should normally need 2.
There we go.
100%. You look at Algalon. Algalon would be a perfect example in terms of just being able to soak a mechanic for no reason.
Yeah, and then just pop back up and crack on.
Side?
Yeah, even
Future side, we used to have people take the poison thing and just run off and die.
The disease, yeah.
Re-res them. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Although, to be fair, Jay did used to do that.
Yeah, I did.
He did. We used to send him off and, drop the disease and die, and then would res him, and then he'd do it again, and then we got Mincy doing it instead, and it felt so much better. Sacrificing Mincy to the gods just felt better.
Well, I mean, so you don't have mana issues in Cataclysm as an early Shami, so you can afford to die and get back up. In Wrath, when that happens, you are scuffed. Like, you have to rely on Innovates or Thunderstorm to try and recover your mana, or a mana pot if worst case scenario. That just doesn't exist in Cata. As long as you can cast 2 or 3 lightning bolts, of which they are very cheap to cast, you'll get enough mana back to carry it on.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this one, because I've been thinking about this for multiple classes, multiple specs that deal fire damage, and you're saying how extremely overpowered fire Ellie is as long as you get a good snapshot. So is there not a lot of fire resist in Firelands on the bosses where the fire, like, maybe it'll still do some melee damage, but the fire damage is mitigated from like resistances and stuff like that?
Curse of Tongues, or that buff, like whichever class brings it, mitigates all resistance in Cata.
All resistance.
Yeah, so as long as that's applied, you'll be fine.
Because I hate partial resists. So if I never see a partial resisted spell again, I'd be a happy raider.
Yeah, so as long as you've got Curse of Elements or that debuff on the target, you'll be fine.
Sick.
I'm not being funny. Dwarf Shaman just looks so fucking insane. I'm sorry, it's just so off topic to what you're talking about, but I go on being on a Dwarf Shaman just makes me happy. I don't know why. They just, like, the spells and everything, I feel like a little short Emperor Palpatine. Like, it just looks incredible.
I think I misspoke. I think I meant to say Curse of Elements if I said Curse of Tongues. Yeah, it's Curse of Elements I was on about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and then you have, like, the Firelands tier set for Ellie Shami gives your Lava Surge proc, makes your Lava Burst instant. So during Firelands, you have Earth Shock, which is instant, Lightning Bolt, which you can cast while moving if you have the glyph, of which you'll run the glyph for most fights. You have then Lava Burst, which you will pretty much only cast during Lava Surges. Like, you can do your entire rotation while moving. So
I'll bring that up now.
It's just insane.
Let's just talk through those quickly, because we did do that in the Paladin episode anyway. So let's Jay, give us your thoughts on the tier sets. And we can talk about all 3 specs, but it's just something we can get out of the way. So, like, Ellie tier 11 is increases critical strike chance of your Flame Shock spell by 10%, and then your Forceps reduces the cast time of your Lightning Bolt by 10%. Are they something you're aiming for?
Yeah, like, your Forceps is insane. Lightning Bolt will be a huge contributor to your damage. Not just because of the Lightning Bolt, but when you cast Lightning Bolt, that's how Fulmination works. You get Lightning Shield charges, which allows you to cast more Earth Shocks. Yeah, I mean, just having the Forceps is insane. You also try and stack Haste a lot at the start of the expansion. You can get down to a point of being GCD capped, which you can't in the first phase. You can't even in the second phase, or certainly not for the start of the second phase. So the Forceps really does help bring your Lightning Bolt down to, like, a manageable level.
Okay, cool. And a tier. What about Enhancement? Yeah, let's cover all 3 specs quickly, because then we can get the tier sets out of the way. Then we can dig into the talents and a bit more than just Ellie Shaman. But Ellie Shaman is the one that I get most excited about. Like, I've got a Shaman at 80 called Scottejaye. It's ready to go. And it's going to be Ellie Resto. Like, I'm not really interested in Enhancement personally, but that's because obviously I play a lot of other melee characters, and I've seen you on an Ellie Shaman, and I've seen what you do on an Ellie Shaman. So, I'm going to try and do some of that.
So, Enhancements is a little bit weird in that it changes in a positive manner, in that it's going to be much nicer to play. We don't have any of this spell hunts nonsense. It's going to be one, like, play style, and it's super good. It just doesn't pump numbers as much. And going off the top of my head, the tier 11 set is literally just damage and crit chance.
Damage done by Lava Lash and Storm Strike by 10%, and crit chance of Lightning Bolt by 10%. Yep, exactly that.
Yeah, so it is something that, it's going to help your damage. It's certainly not going to be anything that like you prioritize. You're not going to give like enhancement your first 4 sets sort of thing. I know that isn't a thing in Cata, but you know what I mean.
Where
Like,
would
you're
you
not
say
going to prioritize them.
where's enhancement strength? So I mean, Ellie, we've already established like single target pumpers, really good raid support in the fact that like it's only demo lock or Ellie Shaman that bring the 10% spell power. Cleave, small cleave is good. Like is enhancement, where's its strengths? Would you say single target, AoE, small cleave?
Cleave AoE fight. So anytime that you can spread flame shocks to multiple targets and then be hitting with fire novas, Ellie is one of the highest DPS you're going to see in the game.
Enhancement.
Enhance, sorry, yeah. They also have quite nice burst. So yeah, it's good in terms of being quite a bursty class with your Spirit Wolves. Spirit Wolves is quite a low cooldown as well, so you get to use that quite often. You can also use it with unused trinkets, so you're going to be able to buff them up as well. So there's quite a lot you can do with Enhance to kind of help it out, but it's single target is going to be a class that sits, mid to high mid in terms of single target DPS, but the nice part about it, they have a 30% damage reduction on a 1-minute cooldown that's off global cooldown.
Mm-hmm.
You also have Maelstrom weapons, so worst case scenario, you have instacast heals that actually heal for an absolute ton. They're naturally quite tanky anyway. So the issue you're going to have, and people are saying it as well, is trying to gear them, because you need to hit expertise and hit cap, and it's spell hit cap you need to hit. So they're probably quite tough, and they're going to be very restricted in what is their best in slot gear or pre-raid bis gear, just because they're going to have a hard time trying to hit that. But once they get to that point, it stops being such a big issue. That they can certainly compete. That I don't think we're going to see them at like the top of the meters unless you have an absolute beastie enhanced Shaman. Orc is going to be one that's just incredibly good just because of the expertise you naturally get anyway. So yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, they're going to be good and viable. I just don't think they're going to quite be like number 1 DPS.
And based on everything you said in terms of the stats that it needs, needing so much hit, getting expertise capped, like, is it one that's going to flourish maybe more in later tiers, rather than the first tier? It'll be all right. Like, yeah, you're going to take it still. It's cool, but it could potentially be actually, once you're getting those inflated stats from much higher levels, it could end up being a pretty big pumper, even single target.
So your Firelands 2 set kind of turns your Lava Lash into kind of a nuke. Like, it already hits very hard, but it's going to hit a lot harder with that 2 set. The 4 set looks like it should do a lot, but it works out to around a 1 to 2% damage increase, so it's not massive. Just because of how many of those spells you don't even really utilize properly. So it's Firelands is still going to be a bit of a rough time. Towards the end of Firelands, once they start getting, their Ragnaros Matrix Restabilizer, once they get their 2 bis weapons and things like that, they're definitely going to be able to do some numbers. I'm not saying that they're going to be bad at all. I just think if you had like a raid full of 100 passing players, Enhancement isn't going to be the top DPS. During Dragon Soul, things kind of look a bit better for them. Your Maelstrom stacks start doing insane amounts, and you start Maelstrom stack weaving, which is using it at like 3 to 4 stacks in between weapon hits to try and maximize the amount of lightning bolts you're getting off in a boss fight. You also get Maelstrom weapon stacks from your Feral Spirit. So during your opener, you're basically just turning into a machine gun of lightning bolts. And those lightning bolts hit harder than Ellie.
So
what
I'm
exceptionally hard.
What I'm seeing, Jay, again, this is I'm talking from I know nothing. I'll put it out there for everyone who's watching. I know nothing of Enhancement Shaman in Dragon Soul. I know a decent amount in tier 11, not even much in Firelands, to be fair. But tier 13, when I'm looking at the 4 set, the 2 and 4 set, I'm thinking like you could literally go to a 5-man heroic with an enhancement shaman as your healer, like a proper heal Hans. We're talking like full blown, just because of because it increases the healing as well. 2 set increases the healing from Maelstrom weapon.
You don't even need that. Like you can play heal Hunts throughout the entire expansion and be viable.
Okay.
Like true, like dedicated enhanced players are probably going to have an actual enhanced set or an actual enhanced spec, sorry, and then a heal Hunt set. I'll be healing heroics as enhancement, like week 1.
But the tier 13 looks like that could actually take it to the next level. You know, like that look to me, I'm looking at it like, when we're in Dragon Soul and we're doing 5-man heroics, you just won't see a fucking healer outside of a shaman. The only downside is you can't actually queue, can you? That's probably a bit of kick in the bollocks.
You'd have to walk in, yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, that's crazy.
I've healed Hunts, like Zul'Gurub Zulaman when they first came out on Whitemane, I was heal hunting. And you know, you can attest that they're not the easiest dungeons to heal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anything when they first came out. But, you know, constantly being able to, every single time you hit like 4 or 5 Maelstrom stacks, everybody gets, you know, 80% increased health. Like, they're healing for so much. They get so much mana back as well. And the fact that, you know, Maelstrom Weapon removes the mana cost as well at 5 stacks. You can do your entire rotation and just not have to worry about it.
Yeah, sorry, Go.
So
you
can
did
do
go.
Decent amounts of damage.
I think Go wanted to ask something while I go and get another gin.
No, you guys keep covering everything. Like I think of something, and then you guys just.
Well, you
like,
went to say something, and I interrupted. But go on, Go.
No, I really have nothing. You guys covered it. What about the cooldown on, like, what are these wolves called in the 4 set?
Feral Spirits.
Feral Spirit. How much uptime are the Feral Spirits?
They're going to be up 25% of the time. They have a 30-second duration for 2-minute cooldown. So like, and they can be bloodlusted and things like that. So you're going to pop them, bloodlust, pump. They're going to hit hard. They do a lot of damage as well, and the fact that they then bring all the extra stuff later on. Like, Chamis are, again, I keep going back to the same word, and I'm going to talk about it more with Resto. They are the most versatile class in WoW. I genuinely believe it. Everyone thinks Druid's the hybrid class. I'm sorry, Go. But
no, you're fine.
Like, Chamis genuinely are the most versatile class. And like, we don't have to switch form to do stuff. That's the insane part. And yeah, someone's saying about the weapons from Deathwing. Once you get the 2 of the weapons from Deathwing, the proc weapons, and the trinket, Vile Shadows, and then you have Wind Fury procs as well. Again, we're getting to a point where enhancement chamois are going to be able to hit something like 15 times.
So how would you compare enhanced damage versus other melee classes? Is it bottom tier because you're saying it's not really that great of a DPS compared to Ellie Shaman, or is it going to outperform some other melee classes on Warcraft logs? I know raid to raid, it's going to be like player performance. You know, you bring the better player is going to out DPS. But what do you expect on Warcraft logs wise, as far as
it's? I don't know. I think they're going to be sat mid-high. So, like, you know, Arms Warrior starts very good. Fury starts to catch it up. I think Enhancement pretty much always stays above Fury for most part of the expansion. Maybe Dragon Soul with 2 Girthalax, it loses it. Rogues, again, I think good rogues, like an Assassination Rogue, certainly for the first phase, is going to be stronger. Combat, probably equal, to be honest. Combat brings a lot of like cleave, so they have different damage profiles, but I think in terms of pure single target, they'll be able to compete. Sub is, if you can play sub and play it really well, then they're just going to be insane.
There just won't be many of those, will there? That's the sad thing.
Frost DK absolutely slaps, and I think it's one that's going to be really rare to see, mainly because the people that play it are only going to be able to play it for a tier before they have to go and get their RSIs checked. Unholy, I don't really see many Unholy DKs, but the ones I do pump, Feral Druid.
I've seen
gets
Unholy
better
on
as
the
expansion
beta.
goes on.
I've seen Unholy on the beta. I've seen Enhancement. I was in a group, me on the mage, with an Unholy DK and an Enhancement Shaman. Anytime there was more than one target. But it's a bad example because, obviously, like, Fire Mage isn't working on the beta. So, like, it's not like I can truly cleave the way I would cleave. But, like, their damage, both of them were bonkers. And it was normally the Unholy DK above the Enhancement. And I'm not 100% sure on what's like working for both specs. Do you know what I mean? Like, there could be really game-breaking bugs for DK that I don't know about, and they could be the same for Shaman. But both of them were clearly in good guilds. You know, like I think like both of them had like server first achievements. I can't think what ones I was looking at, but like they were, yeah, they were both good players and they were pumping. Single target, I was beating them sometimes on single target, and that was again that's without combustion even working. But any time there was more than one mob, both of them, I really felt like Unholy DK. And I've seen others, but it was just nice seeing both of them together when I've been doing heroics. But I feel like Unholy is above Enhancement, certainly before you start getting raid gear.
I'd be surprised if a Enhancement in 346, even full 346 gear, was high enough statted to hit the stat weights.
Yeah.
Because even if they fully focused on hit and expertise and they had all of that, which means that they're generating all the Maelstrom stacks, they're obviously hitting constantly, which is useful. No mastery at all, you know, and their damage scales really heavily on mastery. So I just don't think. Whereas once everyone gets into raid gear, I think it becomes a lot easier for a Enhancement Chamois to compete.
Yeah, they'll start blooming.
Yeah, just because they'll have more stats. Like, the stats themselves is the issue there. You just don't have enough of them.
Cool. All right. Obviously, we're going to dive a little bit more into all of these. This is it. Like, I feel like that was a good overview of Enhancement straight away. Anyway, what about Resto?
Oh, I love Resto. Like, Resto for me has 3 playstyles in Cata, and I think it is probably the only healer bar maybe a Resto Druid that can do it all. So I played a lot of Resto on White Mane. I've played it in the past as well. And I've tank healed, where I've been, you know, solely responsible for the tanks in a 10-man, or I've been, you know, dual responsible for tanks in a 25-man. I've raid healed and been an actual healer in terms of, you know, I'm chain healing, I'm using Ancestral Awakening to maximize my raid healing and things like that. And I've also been like the Atonement healing range setup as well, where I've done decent damage, had 100% mana for the entire fight, and topped healing from Healing Rain almost entirely. So there's yeah, but like it's one of the only classes that could do it. It is the AoE healer to Atonement, right? So Atonement, you hit something, it does healing for one person, right? And it's going to do more than a Chamois would, but Chamois can really, really buff Healing Rain to a point that you've got Healing Rain, which has already been buffed through Focused Insight. You then you buff Earth Living talents, and you buff with the glyph as well, which increases the effectiveness of the periodic healing. So you basically have Earth Living hots on the entire raid group. Any fight you can stack up, Resto Chamois should be really competing with people. But in terms of where they sit in like the overall like hierarchy, I think they're going to get overlooked quite a lot. And it's something that I experienced quite a lot, is that people invited Ellie Chamois or Resto Chamois, sorry. I always go back to Ellie. People invite Resto Chamois and expect them to be really bad, but they have the strongest cooldown in the game, just without question, in Spirit Link.
Yeah.
They have insane amounts of raid utility. They have insane amounts of raid healing, single target healing. Like, they can really just do it all. It's one of those that you're going to want one amazing Resto Shami in every raid team.
What would you say, like in terms of skill cap? Do you think it's a hard healer to play? You know, if someone's watching this and they're like, actually, I mean, Jay's made Resto Shaman sound OP. I'm going to do that. Will they have a good time at all skill levels, or is it like quite a high skill cap, healer to play?
So, I think if you're just going to jump into Resto Shami and go, I'm going to main this is going to be my main class, you're probably going to have 2 Resto specs between, the normal healing spec and then the atonement healing spec, because, you can do both with raid and tank healing with the primary spec. And I think you're going to have... the mastery is where it's going to really struggle. Okay, so the mastery for Resto Shami increases the potency of spells by up to X percentage based on the current health level of your target. And that maximizes at 30%. So what you could heal someone for at 70%, you're going to be able to heal them for a lot more if you wait for them to get to 30%. Now, people are super uncomfortable with this. But the people who live and breathe Resto Shami, and it's not even me anymore. Like, it maybe once upon a time, but the people who live and breathe Resto Shami are the kings of sniping people when they get low. And I've talked about it before, but you have so many multipliers in terms of Riptide, Unleash Elements, your Mastery, procs, and all that sort of stuff, that you're going to be able to top 3 or 4 people from 30% on one chain heal if you play it correctly.
Yeah, that sounds pretty hot. As someone who loves healing, and knowing how difficult it is to actually top people off in Cata, because I think that's going to come as quite a shock to a lot of healers that are used to playing Wrath, where, as a Holy Paladin, you do 1 Holy Light. It's like, he was about to die. He had 1 health, and I literally healed all of his health into Cata, where it's like, what? I just healed 10%. I'm nearly home. Like, what the fuck is this?
Well, I mean, consider how strong this is, right? Your healing stream totem actually does work in Cata, which is, crazy. The glyph of healing stream totem also brings resistances to your raid. So you're going to get 195 fire, frost, and nature resist by just having healing stream totem down, which you will at all times anyway. So they just naturally bring a lot of utility. I genuinely think they're going to be the strongest, walk-in heroic healer. Just because how hard tanks are going to get hit, how hard people are going to get hit if they get hit in any mechanic. And Shami is just going to be able to greater heal, full health, done.
The only thing I'm worried about with Resto Shaman is it sounds like they can really excel as long as the raid group knows and understands when and where to stack. But if you have a couple knobs running off on their own that aren't stood in the healing rain,
you said knob.
Healed by it.
That's awesome.
I said knob. You're growing on me. Your knob is growing on me, Scotty.
I've never heard you say the word knob before. That's amazing. I don't even know what to say anymore.
I've been trying to figure out a way to knob weave and get that in there.
Knob weave, it's amazing.
And I tried to be incognito about it, and then it just got pointed out immediately. Fuck. So say there's a couple people that don't quite get into the healing rain circle and stuff like that, so they're not benefiting from your huge AoE healing, and then they have to get single target healed in say a 10-man, and Scotty just can't help himself. Is it easy to pop your AoE heals and then still be able to heal the people that weren't stood in the right spot and top them up too?
So if I go my atonement spec, the spec where I'm pretty much 80% of my globals are spent on lightning bolt, I'm doing most of my healing with healing rain. I'm going to throw out the occasional riptides, but healing rain and my totems are going to do the majority of the heavy lifting. If you don't stand in it, I'm just not healing you. It's just, that's as simple as it is. And on some fights, that's just not a viable strategy. So I'll use Nefarian as an example. At one point in Nefarian, you literally have to split into 3 different groups. Well, you can't stack up for that. It just doesn't exist. So I play the other spec. And this is where I think the people who like live and breathe Resto Shaman will have 2 specs, and they'll switch based on the fight. But for the fights where you can stack, the people who aren't stacked just aren't getting healing.
Do you switch your glyphs around a lot for that too, for like single target healing versus AoE healing?
For my atonement spec, it stays exactly the same. For my raid healing, it switches occasionally. It's not massive. I'll tend to run Earth Shield because, you know, a Blood DK with Earth Shield just never needs a heal. Like, he can just keep himself alive, and the Earth Shield just helps keep him up. So, yeah, I mean, you can change your glyphs a little bit, but you don't really need to very much.
So I've done it's slightly off topic, but it is actually quite relevant into what you just said, Jay. You know, the same. So if I was to use a Disc Priest as an example, you know, people will need to understand how it's not just on the Disc Priest to understand how to play his class. You know, it's on the raid to understand that, like, Atonement healing is really strong, it's really mana efficient, but if you want heals, you know, you need to be within 15, I'm sure it's 15 yards, 15 yards of the boss. The same way where it's like people in the raid need to identify the difference between what's good ground effects and what's bad ground effects. You know, there's nothing more irritating. I can say it more confidently as a Resto Druid. As you know, I played a lot of Resto. We healed together on Whitemane multiple times as Resto Shaman, Resto Druid. And watching someone move out of your efflorescence, like, I literally want to strangle them. Like, it's like...
You're just not getting heals.
They'll be stood in it, casting, they'll see efflorescence go down, and they will stop casting and stop doing damage to move out of it. And it's like, what are you actually doing? Like, are you actively trying to make it look like I can't heal? Or are you, like, can you not differentiate between what's good and bad on the floor? And the same way, again, with the ranged on Disc Priest. Like, you know, as a healer, you can do so much, and you need to be as mana efficient as possible. And trust me, when we're going in, and we will, like, forget private servers, forget what you remember from back in the day in Cata, we will all be going in, or the majority of us will all be going in, straight into Heroic in Cata. We won't be going in and trying to kill normal bosses. We'll be going straight into BWD, Bastion of Twilight, and we'll be trying to do Heroic bosses. And that's where it's really going to matter. Where people are actually, like, understand the difference between what is good to stand in, what's bad to stand in, and understand that mechanics are number one. My biggest fear of Cata, and it has been, like, since before we even started talking about Cata, was the pass brain, Wrath, easy mode mentality. And for anyone who's watching on Kick at the moment, or anyone who's even watching on YouTube but was on Kick just before the stream, before the podcast, I was doing an ICC 10 Heroic. Now, you will all probably be sat there like, that must have been face roll, that must have been fun. No, it weren't. And do you know who was fouling more than anyone? It was the people in the best gear. The people with no gear, or, you know, the people who are trying to get gear for Cata, people who are freshly re-rolled onto NA servers with us to try and get some gear, no mistakes. They were doing great. The people that are stacked, for some reason, feel the need to try and pass in a 10-man Heroic where it's completely irrelevant, and they're just ignoring mechanics. And that worries me when I see it happen. Because it's like, if you try and ignore mechanics as an individual in Cataclysm, it's really going to hurt your guild. If you're ignoring mechanics as a guild, you know, you're like, we're going to try and just push straight through this and ignore that. Like, Maloriak is a prime example, where it's like, you're not going to wait for 2 green phases. It's like, we're going to push straight through that. Then fine. But if you're like just trying to do your own thing, oh man, it's going to be a painful experience.
I've said it for a long time. I have no issues with people trying to pass once the boss is on farm. But while we're progging, it's, you know, one mechanic can screw the entire raid up very quickly. And, I mean, I'll use Lord Rhyolith, right? Very, very easy fight, actually. Like, it's something that people make so much more complicated on themselves. On Heroic, that last 25-30% is an actual burn phase. If you've lost anyone in 10-man before that during prog, you're just not killing it.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
you physically won't kill the boss. So like, but the rest of the fight is so easy that there's no reason to lose anyone.
Yeah,
It's Puffin is gonna hurt in Cata.
The progress in general for a lot of guilds, not the top guilds that are already on private servers practicing, it's not them. It's more your average guild where you've got used to how things are, and I would call us, we're gonna be one of the average guilds, we want to push progress like we always do, but we're not for number one, like that don't interest me anymore. Like it's more just like, I want to kill bosses with people that I enjoy playing with, but in a timely fashion where we're not wasting anyone else's time, where we're respecting everybody in the raid's time. But it is a big wake up call, and it is for me. I go from playing, doing a raid on Whitemane to going and doing a raid on Wrath, and it is literally like, oh, I'm Wrath, I can just stand there and just spam buttons. This is cool. Stand there, spam buttons, drink gin, talk to the stream, amazing. On Cata, if I do that and take my eye off the ball for 20 seconds, I literally could cause a wipe. The mechanics, I spoke about it recently about the heroic dungeons, where I would say they're like TBC dungeons. They're not like something we haven't seen before. It's not like a new level of difficulty that's going to shock everyone. It's just like back in TBC, you had to use CC. You had to understand what the mob's done in that heroic dungeon, and everyone did. It's not, it don't matter how good you was. You just had to understand what you was doing in that heroic dungeon. Cata is literally no different. All of these scary stories about them being the hardest heroics, the hardest heroics we've ever had, they ain't. I'd say TBC was on par. But we just got to wake up a little bit.
Pre-nerf, like current patch heroics, when they first came out, you could do all of the mechanics and still die to just raw damage. I would say now that the damage shouldn't overwhelm you, but if you don't respect the mechanics, you're still going to die. Like Blackrock Caverns, the last boss in there, nobody knows how to do that boss properly, but people have come up with ways and means around it. But if you don't do it correctly, you're just going to get stuck at that boss.
Yeah, and it's nice having that confidence around having a few people in the group that do know what they're doing. Like, we done that tonight. Like, earlier on stream was doing that boss, and don't get me wrong, on the beta, fuck me. Like, it feels like it's on normal. Like, there's no difficulty to it whatsoever. But, if I see, like, Flo was tanking, if I saw Flo start getting chunked, I'd AoE on all the ads to draw them to me. And then he'd see they're running to me, and then he'd throw his shield at them all, and they'd run back to him. So no one's taking any damage. But it's having that confidence about the boss, like, in the group. I know that's not... It feels like it's off topic, because we're talking about Shaman, but it's not, because Shaman is, like, Resto Shaman in particular, how Jay was talking, revolves around more than just Jay knowing how to heal. Jay could be the best fucking healer in the world. Literally, number one Resto Shaman world. But if people in his group are not respecting how the Resto Shaman plays, that's not really going to do him any favours or you any favours.
If people stack at 16 yards apart for my chain heal, I physically can't heal you all at the same time.
Exactly.
Like you could screw a Resto Shaman out by putting people 16 yards apart, and he just will not be able to heal anyone.
Oh, that's something we'll do, go.
Was it TBC where this whole like healer needs the raiders to be in a certain range started to happen? Because I'm thinking, like, I don't know why, but Sunwell, for some reason, I'm thinking of like Priest, and we needed to bring in Priest that could AoE heal, and then all of a sudden I had to really focus on my position as a ranged, because usually I'm just like stood wherever the fuck I wanted to stand. And then like I started to get bitched at. My parse brain was like, oh yeah, I just need to get into my position, stand there, pump, never move. And then it was like, oh no, I have to kind of be grouped up. So I've been on that side where I was that shitter that just stood there and did my own thing. And if I died, I just bitched like, dude, why didn't I get a heal? It's because you're stood 20 yards away from the group. Like, what are you doing? So
yeah, but that's exactly right.
Yeah, and then it increased in Wrath a little bit too. Like, I had to try to focus on like healers and being in range of stuff. And so yeah, it sounds like it's getting a little bit more serious. Not terribly more serious, but it's still a thing to focus on in Cata.
So I just want to touch on one comment, because we've sort of at Grey Range just actually touched on it as a response, I think, a little bit. But like when you were talking about healing, generally, have you taken healing changes across the patches into consideration? So no, and I don't want to teach anyone to suck eggs, but for anyone who's played vanilla, played classics in 2019, you'll know we've never got to a position where we've gone progressively through patches. Like, literally, however the classes play in the final patch state is what we're going to get in the first patch state. Like, and there's no way on it. If they was going to do that anywhere, they'd have done it in Wrath. I just want to put that in there now. Like, if they would have ever gone against that mantra, they would have done it in Wrath. So, absolutely no doubt in my mind, every class change, every class iteration, however you want to look at it, we will be in a 4.3.4 state, which is basically the final patch before the mock pre-patch. Because, Wrath would have been the perfect time to do that, to give us a more spiced up Wrath version. But we've seen the state of the beta, we've seen the state of the effort in communication that's going in towards Cata. There's fucking no way on earth they're going to put any more effort in than they need to. So we will get all the classes, which I'd rather that. I'd rather that, where it requires no work and we just know what we're getting. I wouldn't have before. I've always said I'm a big fan of progressive patch changes, just because it spices up the meta every new phase we get. But like Cata, no, I don't want that, because I don't trust them, quite honestly. Like, I would much rather just know what we're getting.
One thing with that, though, is like, so yes, healers are a lot stronger in 4.3.4 than they would have been at release. But a healer by themselves, more so in 25-man, but certainly in 10-man as well, aren't going to be able to carry a raid, nor a DPS. I would say if you were certainly trying to be the carry of a group, tank is probably the strongest role. Just because you can do a lot of the mechanics.
No, rephrase that. Don't say tank. What tank? Rephrase. What's the carry of the... What tank in particular? Okay, yeah. If you want to carry the raid, be a blood DK.
Yeah, but like, you're even then, right? Like, you have to have a good group cohesion, and everyone has to be pulling their weight. I've said it before, but in a 10-man group, you need 8 people to be playing really well to bring 2 other people that aren't, necessarily playing well. And in 25-man, I would put that 17, 18 people. Like, you're not just going to be able to rock up and be a carry as you were. Like, even if we're going to be buffed, which we're going to be a lot more buffed than we would have been the first time round in these raids, we're still not going to be able to just walk in and face roll it.
Yeah, I agree, and I think those numbers are bang on as well, actually. To be fair. I thought you was going to go more 20 for 25-man. Like 20 who know what they're doing. You can almost get away with carrying 5. That would have been personally what I said. But 17, 18. Yeah. I think 17, 18 of us that have done all the content before. Yeah, absolutely.
I think when we start seeing the GDKPs, that's the sort of numbers we're going to see. It's going to be kind of 17, 18 carries that maybe want to buy 1 or 2 pieces each, and then the rest are going to be buyers or, people who are still bringing something to the raids, but, not necessarily carrying. I don't think you're going to get these things where you've got like a 10-man raid going through ICC 25.
No. And I mean, when we're talking about Blood DK carry, it does act like genuinely makes me think of Lee. So big up Limo. He's probably in bed by now because he's a bit of a knob nowadays, Bit of a knob.
Knob, you say?
That he, we was doing Shannock's Heroic on 10-man, and I don't know, I can't remember exactly what happened, but shit at the fan. There was no tank swap, there was no nothing.
We were trying to do a cheese strat.
Yeah, we were trying to do a cheese strat that just didn't work, did it? And he never reset his stacks. So he ended up literally tanking Shannock's Heroic from start to finish. No stack reset. He ended up where the bleed damage was like 100,000 damage every 2 seconds or something ridiculous. But he was doing so much self-healing with Blood Strike and the shield absorb afterwards that literally he just solo tanked it. as a blood DK, and I think we're going to see crazy shit like that, and we're going to be like, this is broken, this needs fixing. And actually, like, it's not. It is. We know it is. We know it shouldn't be that strong, but it's not actually broken, if you know what I mean. As in, it's kind of like how it did work. We just know how to play the classes better, and how you can probably abuse that a lot more now. So I think, like, well, I said tonight when people are, when we've been talking about guild stuff before we done the podcast, and they're like, I can level my paladin and be in your alt runs if you want, and I'm like, I'm all right, thanks. Like, you can level your paladin and go and join a pug, but like, I'm not raiding with anything other than a blood DK and a feral druid. Like, honestly,
yeah.
I just don't see the point. Like, you know, if you want to play a prop paladin, like, cool, obviously do it. But like, if I'm talking about doing 4 to 8 raids a week, which is what it looks like I'm going to be doing, you know, I just want to make sure we've got the best possible setup. And I just think if you're raiding without a blood DK, you're straight away tying one arm behind your back.
100%. Like, you can get away without a feral druid. You can play with a prot warrior off tank. That's completely fine. But yeah, if you play without a blood DK, then you're just asking for trouble.
You're just making it more difficult than it needs to be. Which, if I wouldn't have an issue, by the way, if Blizzard intervened and like brought a bit more balance to all the tanks. So I'm not saying like I'm not saying it's good how it is. I'd absolutely have no issue if they played about with it a bit and brought them all in line. Like Subtle said, preferably by bringing the other tanks up rather than bringing blood tank down. So I agree with him 100% with what he said there. To make the decision a little bit more difficult, but at the moment when it's so much of an outlier, there's just a no-brainer.
Well, speaking of tanks, in no relation at all to those, we've got talents and specs and stuff to talk about for Shaman, which is the main topic of this conversation, and we've only got about 30 or so minutes left, so we got to dive into the rest of the information here, Scotty.
Okay, all right. So, well, where do you want to go? I mean, I feel like that was a good. I mean, I don't feel like with Ellie we need to go massive. Oh, I'll tell you what, Jay, talk about, because I'm just gonna go for a piss. Talk about like the leveling. So we've spoke about we've spoke about leveling specs like pre-patch and all of that. So because leveling for me as a shaman would always just be enhancement, even if I weren't going to play enhancement at 80 or at 85. Like, so what would be a good leveling spec? Someone's gone, Jay's right, I should be a shaman. Like, I want to be a shaman in Cata. When the pre-patch comes out, I'm going to level a goblin shaman. How should they level?
So enhance, done. That's it. Like Ellie, I level Ellie because I'm a masochist, but you know, the 0 cooldown chain lightning means you can pull 3 or 4 mobs at a time. Earthbind, knock them all down, and you can AoE pull like that pretty much all the time, which is awesome. But if you really want to level fast, then like enhancement is the way to do it. It levels so quickly. You can AoE pull. As soon as you get to improved Lava Lash, you can just start AoE pulling, you know, 3-4 mobs every single pull. Especially like if you happen to level 1 now and you've got a level 80, you're leveling 80 to 85. Enhancement Shami is going to be one of the only classes that just consistently pulls 3 mobs with every single pull in Cata, which is, you know, hilarious. They're very, very tanky. They're gonna just smash through everything. And obviously, if you have the gear from ICC as well, it's good. But yeah, I mean, you're never going to get stuck on anything. You can kind of really carry the normal dungeons. So, you know, you get into Blackrock Caverns, your group's a bit weak, you know, chuck the extra heals out or chuck a Earth Ellie down to take some of the soaks out. You know, you can do so much where you can actually just help the group a lot. So, yeah, I mean, Enhancement's probably the way I would play. You can heal with Resto pretty easy if you wanted to dungeon spam. But yeah, I mean, Ellie is good, don't get me wrong. I just don't think it even competes with Enhancement.
See, I like, oh God, I wanted to move on from this really quick. So I hate the fact that I'm about to say I'd do something different, but I would. Like, mine would really differ on race. Is that weird? That's weird,
Yes.
isn't it? That is weird. Yeah, I knew it was weird when I said it, so that's why I wanted to just make sure. If I was leveling a dwarf, I would level a dwarf Ellie the whole way. Like I just would. I don't know why.
Okay.
I just go on a dwarf and I just want to be an Ellie shaman. I don't actually care about any other spec. Whereas if I was leveling Horde, I'd level his enhancement. Man, that is one of the most ridiculous things I've ever said on a podcast. I feel like Go, I know how you feel like. Like, but I would
constantly.
Yeah, no, but I would, and it is such a stupid thing to say because I know it doesn't matter, but like I just if I level, and I have, like I've got so much evidence of it. I could log on retail now. I've got so many dwarf shamans that are all elemental, but then I've got so many orc shamans that are enhancement. You know, where I'm just like, oh, I'm dwarf, yeah, I'm going Ellie, just because it looks better. But I wouldn't say. I'd say it's kind of like feral versus balance and Ellie and enhancement. Like, enhancement's going to be like coming out of the gate swinging the whole way. And then once you start to get some of that mana efficiency in Ellie, you know, where you are getting like elemental focus and, you know, where there's no downtime. You know, once you get to the point of Ellie where there's no downtime, I'd say between the two of them, it would then be sort of personal preference.
Yeah, I mean, it's always personal preference, but, you know, you could be wrong and have personal preference.
Yeah. Again, and I probably am wrong, you know, but it's I can go all the way back to original TBC, and I mean original TBC when I leveled a Draenei Shaman, and I can tell you exactly when I respect Ellie. It was level 63 in Terracar, my first ever Shaman, because I was Alliance all through, you know, through Vanilla 2004, 2005. And then when I could go Shaman, and then I stayed Ellie, like all the way from there. Like I feel like there's that switching point where it don't feel punishing, kind of like being Ellie, even though enhancement probably is still better.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, I've leveled as Ellie as well. You've seen me do it.
Yeah.
But you know, as I said, masochist. If you wanted to be efficient and level the quickest, then it's enhancement.
Yeah, I'll just get on board with that, because I would say the same to Go if we were talking about like Druid, and he's like, yeah, but I level as Booming, it's fine. I'll be like, yeah, Feral's still quicker. You know, like I would be the same.
So yeah, I would argue the difference is bigger. You know, Feral does one target really well, whereas Boomy can have some like AoE while leveling. So, you know, there's some element where they can AoE farm and you know, multiple mobs while leveling. Whereas Enhancement does everything Ellie can do while leveling better. It does single target better, it does AoE better, it does survivability, does elite quests, it does everything just better, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, cool. So that's leveling. Is there any like key? So I'm going to get it open on screen now for everyone. Like key new abilities, talents, like things that you want to talk about for any of the free specs. We can start with Ellie. Like, again, we ain't got to go into massive detail. Just the you know, real big. This is why you should be an Ellie shaman.
Before you do that, I'm going to go, because I keep seeing people talk about it, and you know, I feel like people are getting it wrong. In terms of races, like, it's actually important for Shami, unfortunately. So, Orc is the best, unfortunately, just for Enhancement and Ellie. For Ellie, it has the biggest snapshot on your Fire Elemental. That is literally the only reason, but because of that, it is just the best for damage. Like, in terms of actual numbers, it is the best. And Orc brings, you know, pet damage. It brings Blood Fury, which lines up on the same on the same cooldown as your Feral Spirits. It also brings, you know, axe specialization. You're going to be running axes certainly for the first, second. In fact, no, you're going to be running axes as part of your BIS for the entire expansion. You know, there is an argument for Goblin, and Goblin is very, very, very good for Resto. So is Troll. You know, if you want better just overall healing, then Goblin is better. If you want better burst healing, then Troll is better. You can play Orc Resto as well and be viable. In terms of Alliance, I hate it that I'm going to say this, but blue aliens are best for Enhancement. Just because of the hit chance. The raw hit chance is just, you're going to be so starved for it. It's going to be something you have to think about for the entire expansion. Having just 1% extra hit is just so nice. Ellie, you don't really struggle for hit chance. Technically, Draenei would be slightly better, but I would be a dwarf because Dwarf Abyss.
Yeah.
And Resto, you could be either, and it wouldn't even really matter. But certainly for Horde, there's you're really going to be like, if you want to play all the specs or bounce between the different specs, Orc is the way to go.
If we're talking 100 passing shamans, are we saying the majority, outside of just pure RNG, luck based, or like cheesing strats to like force one person to get 100 pass, is like Orc a clear winner, just outside of them all?
Even with like memeing and cheesing it in whatever way, Orc is still better.
Okay.
Like, I can't. The difference between Orc and the other specs for both is noticeably big.
Go. You was going to say something?
I'm well ahead of you on the Draenei Shaman. I have a level 33 Shaman right now, named Goat, and it's the best name I've come up with for myself. So I might have to level up Goat.
Was that it?
Like,
you go. So basically, so we're all playing Horde, and you're going Alliance. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
That was what I took away from that conversation.
I'm just moving away from that, to be honest. I don't think it dignifies a response.
Carry on.
So the interesting thing about Goblin, I just want to throw it in here, just for like casters in general. Like, if you've got haste breakpoints that you need to sort of adhere to, which that's Fire Mage, Affliction Warlock, Shadow Priest, even like Resto Druid, Ellie Shaman, like anyone who's got a dot where you're trying to reach certain breakpoints, the 1% haste does look very appealing. But then when you actually then start to look at it in terms of numbers, and then you're going through the tiers, it's like not massive. You're talking like 180 haste rating. It's like basically it's having like one item's worth of haste extra.
It starts better than it ends. At the start of the phase, having that extra 180 is huge. But towards the end of the expansion, that 180 is not going to mean anything.
Yeah, and I've looked at it, and I've looked at like my haste breakpoints for a Fire Mage going, getting extra ticks in Combustion, getting extra ticks with Living Bomb, and like whether you're Goblin, whether you're Troll, whether you're Orc, whatever you are, like the jump from one haste breakpoint to the next, at some point, normally normally two ticks in, is what it gets so big that the fact that you're Goblin makes no fucking difference. It's like you need like 1.8k more haste. It's like, okay, well, I've got 180.
It becomes unattainable.
Yeah.
It just becomes unattainable at some point,
Exactly. So it's like, early game, like Jay's saying, absolutely, like Goblins can be really strong. But then it gets to a point where you've got loads of access to haste. You've got loads of access to be able to reforge off loads of hit, crit, whatever to haste. Goblin is never going to be the difference between being able to achieve an extra dot or hot tick or not getting it, because the jump just becomes so big that, it's just unobtainable. But I'm going Goblin on my rogue just because they look fucking insane. I like Goblins, man.
Goblins with the daggers as well at the end of the expansion with the wings looks amazing.
Oh, man. That's exactly why I'm going to be a Goblin rogue. It's just going to be sick.
All right,
so go on.
Tell me why everybody, I think earlier, were saying that Earthquake sucks for Ellie Shamans?
You just don't take it, unfortunately. Like, I would love for Earthquake to be good, but it just isn't. It doesn't do damage, right? I say it doesn't do damage. It doesn't do very much damage. So The benefit of Earthquake is the fact that it occasionally CCs, and even then it's a luck-based CC. You know, it has a chance to knock them down. So you'll probably find that, Ellie Shami, you'll run it for like the first week of Heroics, not even for the damage. You know, you will lose damage by casting it, but it's a decent amount of utility. Until later on, like after the first week, you'll never see Earthquake again.
Yep, and you still got to go 31 points in Ellie, but you'll just go 31 points and not take Earthquake.
Yeah. I have sent you, I don't know if you can show them at all, Scott, but I have sent you the Ellie talents that people will likely be running.
I mean, you've only got to look on screen at the moment. You know, Earthquake doing like 578 damage to each target, and then I do one chain lightning, and it's like 5.1 and 3.8k, and I could literally just.
You can multi-proc that as well with your mastery, and that's generating fulmination stats.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the damage of Earthquake is so ridiculous that. Unless it saw some change, then maybe. But yeah, it's certainly not something that you would actually actively seek out. The extra talent point is definitely got more value somewhere else. So strong, Spartan, so strong.
If they changed it so that it became like Shadow Fury, where it was like instant ground effect, has a like knockdown when you put it down, then. You know, it would see value. Like, there are some fights like Maloriak where you've got the ads. Being able to knock all of them down would be amazing. But people don't take it because it's purely RNG, which means I could knock one ad down that you've just stacked together, but not knock the rest of the pack down, and suddenly they're split.
Yeah, same way as a Frost Mage. If you're AoE grinder, you don't use Frostbite because it's nice. It'd be nice if it was when you get hit, they get frozen. But yeah, it's exactly the same. So yeah, it's a weird one. Well, if it got buffed at some point, I suppose you never know.
So I see in the spec that you had sent us that you don't have any points in feedback, but you do have 8 points in the resto tree. So why wouldn't you want to pick up feedback? It's like all the way down, right up above.
Because this is my PvP tree.
Oh, okay.
That's a very good point.
Okay.
No. It's the one I've sent you because I took it off that character. It's because that's my PvP spec.
Oh, I was like, that's a lot of like resto talents there.
Yeah, you basically are very, very tanky with that spec.
Okay.
I can put it into a talent calculator if that helps, and then people can see it. But yeah, effectively, you don't cast Lightning Bolt very often, so. Like, because you're never going to be able to just sit there and hard cast in the BG, right? You're just going to get beaten up if you do that. So you don't worry about feedback because you don't need to survive. Yeah, that's just the wrong talent tree for PvE.
All right, because I was feeling like, damn, dude, I really don't know how, like, shit about shamans. So I got feedback looks so good.
No, it is. That's great.
Woo!
A PvE, but that is like a go-to PvP spec that's on screen at the moment, yeah? That's
what I've pushed. Sense. That's what I've pushed 2s and 3s with that spec because you are just so tanky. And then let me do this real quick.
I was like, I'd put points in convection, which weren't there just in case for the mana, but they were put into the rest. I was like, this is an odd spec for PvE. But yeah, it's making more sense now.
No instant Ghost Wolf is a bit rough. No instant Ghost Wolf, Jay, thoughts?
You don't really use it, and you can't get Nature's Guardian that way, which Nature's Guardian is so key.
Does Ghost Wolf break root? Probably not, right?
No.
Yeah. I was like, that'd be the only thing that I could think of to make an instant Ghost Wolf make sense.
That's going to be like start of the expansion early talents, and then you can take points out of what's the talent called? Elemental Precision for other things if you really needed it, but you're pretty much going to have that for the most of the time.
I'm like sat here trying to find him. Where's improved Ghost Wolf? Like where even is that?
It is Ancestral Swiftness. It's the second
Oh,
tier of
Ancestral.
enhancement.
Oh,
and the
okay.
third talent.
Yeah, it's not called improved Ghost Wolf anymore. Yeah, that's why.
No.
Yeah, that's what I've got in my LE PvE spec. But yeah, obviously Earthquake wouldn't be there. This is just something I chucked together before we started. Although, I mean, there's probably not that much wrong. Take Earthquake out and then all the other talents that I've done wrong and put them somewhere else and it'll be perfect.
See,
remove all the bad stuff and then it's all the good stuff's left.
And then put it in the good stuff and fucking golden.
I'd prefer that totemic reach instead of seeing my Shaman run Ancestral Swiftness.
You can, but there are some fights where Ancestral Swiftness is going to be amazing.
That's fair. I'm terrible at like tracking totems, like where they are at and trying to get in the range.
Oh, I'm not go, and I hate it on my mage. I have a weak aura that pops up when I'm not in range, and I always try and think. I always try and think in the mind of the shaman. Like the shaman's going to run into the boss and drop it fairly central, you would think, and they don't. They'll put it like they'll start on the left side of the room and drop it on the left side of the room. And you're like, are you fucking joking? So, like, I spend more of my time on my mage trying to work out where the fucking shaman has put their fucking totems than actually nuking the boss. Right, okay, we've got...
They're next to me. You can be next to me or you can not. That's your choice.
Yeah, but if it was you, I know I'd stand next to you. But when I join a GDKP, like tonight... Oh, no, I'm on my paladin tonight, don't matter. I'm just gonna literally roll my face across the keyboard and it'll be fine. But, like, yeah... On the mage, if I was with you, I'd be stood near you all the time. All right. So, anything else you want to touch on all of the specs, like big, like new abilities, big key things? It's really it's open to you.
Every guide you're going to see is going to tell you to run. What is the glyph called? Oh, Glyph of Lightning Bolt. Every single guide is going to tell you to run Glyph of Lightning Bolt because technically it is a DPS increase. They're talking nonsense. Like any fight that you can stand there for 3 minutes and hit Lightning Bolt without moving, it's worth it, right? It is a DPS increase. Any other situation where you have to move, I think I worked out like 3 casts a minute. It would just be better to not have it and run Unleash Lightning. For every prog fight, I will have Unleash Lightning because just being able to move is better than not. So yeah, I mean, you're going to see a lot of guides come out and like the min-max of DPS is going to be run Glyph of Lightning Bolt. It just isn't. Glyph of Fire Elemental Totem is great if the fight is ever, short enough where you can get a second cast out.
Is there a reason I got a semi at the moment, Jay? Can you just help me out just for a second before you carry on? Why is it so arousing to be able to cast Lightning Bolt while moving? I don't get it.
You haven't even got Lightning Shield up, so you could be Fulminating. You could be, you've got a Lava Burst. You could be Spirit Walker's Grace.
Forget that. I'm terrible. Forget that. I'm terrible. I just like running around pressing Lightning Bolt. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah, a lot of times it's like, oh yeah, you can use like 3 spells while you're moving or something like that. But having it just baseline, you can, whenever you want to move, you can still cast it. Well, that's fucking
imagine
sick.
Being able to cast Wrath or Starfire while moving.
Yeah, like this is a fucking glyph right here, dude. Like I want to see a glyph like that for Boomy, dude.
It's not Season of Destruction, so no, you'll have to wait, unfortunately. Not what's it called? Discovery.
Smooth.
Casting Wrath while moving? Holy shit.
Sorry, go on, carry on, Jay. Yeah, but no. So what would you use then? What would you use? So, like, could you not use Unleash Magic and Unleash Lightning and Lightning Bolt at the same time? Or are you getting too much of a loss from somewhere else?
You'd run Flame Shock, Lava Burst, Unleash Lightning for your prime glyphs.
Flame Shock. So Flame Shock increases the duration of Flame Shock. You said Lava Burst, which...
It's just pure damage.
10% more damage as well. Like 10% more damage from a glyph is fucking massive. That's like a set bonus, man. Like that
that also applies to your mastery.
Yeah.
So if it procs again, that's the 10% applies.
What? Scotty casting lightning bolt like this. That's why Mop's best and Mop Talent's own so much. People hate on Mop, Talent's out on Mop. That gameplay is so good. Oh yeah. No, don't get me wrong. Obviously, I play a mage, so having Scorch and being able to Scorch on the move. The amount of times I try and Scorch on the move in Wrath is like, it makes me look like I'm a terrible, terrible player. Because I'm trying to move and I'm like, why am I not actually casting anything? Like, what's going on? Oh, yeah, wrong game. But, like, Scorch is one thing, Lightning Bolt's another. You're talking Lightning Bolt is like, that is the Ellie Shaman filler. Like, Scorch isn't. That's what makes this, like, far more overpowered. You know, because, yeah, a mage, if you cast Fireball while moving, like, that would be insane. But you're doing Scorch, so you're already doing like something you don't really want to do. But man, that's just fun.
If I gave you a glyph that said your Fireball does 4% less damage, but you can just cast while moving, every single fire mage in the world is running that.
Yeah, absolutely, fucking lootly. Yeah, no doubt.
And but this is what I'm saying. Like the pure min-maxy people, you know, you look at Wowhead, it's going to be the optimal DPS rotation and everything else. It's all going to tell you to run the lightning bolt glyph, and it's a bait. As is the chain lightning glyph as well.
So what about this? So we can do a quick Q&A. We might have to do a second Shaman episode because we ain't touched too much on enhancement and resto, which is fine.
Shocker.
But Joel said they made it not viable for the patch in Firelands. Anything on that, Jay?
They made what not viable?
I'm assuming we're talking about lightning bolting on the move. As that's what we're talking about, I assume that's what it was?
No, it's completely viable.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it's your filler. Surely, is it not just what you press when you're waiting for other things to come off cooldown?
Yeah, I mean, it's less good in Firelands because you have the tier set, right? The four tier set, which gives your Flame Shock when your Flame Shock procs and gives your Lava Burst resets the cooldown, does more damage. Then the tier set makes it instant as well, so you can move quite a lot without the glyph. But yeah, no, in general, like it's still going to be very good for most of the expansion. I would use it for every progress fight. It's only when I'm going to be going for like 100 passes that I probably won't, and that's when like people can carry me to the point that I'm just going to stand in every mechanic.
Yeah, you're just going to heal through it. Yeah, absolutely.
Dude, I was just losing my shit. I was like, wait a second, I have been casting Starfire on the move. Like this is a thing, and it was that Mop event, the 10.2.7. I was like, I logged on the beta. I was like, what the fuck talent or glyph like was that? But yeah, that was Mop. Or it's probably Dragonflight. I don't even know if it wasn't Mop.
Well, I mean, let's cover the main new abilities, because I feel like it really has actually been fairly deep divey. Like, so we can take another 10, 15 minutes, maybe even 20, like whatever. You know, what are the new abilities that Shaman's going to get? Let's cover those and then talk about how they affect the playstyle.
So Spirit Walker's Grace is your big, new ability that comes in Cata. It is, I'm going to say level 85 you get it. It might be 84, but I believe it's 85. And allows you to cast anything while moving, except, I believe, Hearthstone. I don't think you can Hearth on the move. But it wouldn't surprise me if you could.
Yeah.
You also get Spirit Link as part of Resto, which someone's mentioned, which is insane, right? So for those of you who don't know what Spirit Link does, it equalizes the health of everyone in it, right? So if everyone is 90% health, but you've got one person that's 10% health, all of a sudden then everyone in the group will be at like 80% health, but that'll include the person that was low health. So that's something that can be used to cheese a lot of mechanics where you're taking like raid damage or a tank buster and you can just Spirit Link, done. you just ignore that exists entirely. It's going to be so strong. Obviously, Earthquake, which we don't talk about, is bad. You get it, but you don't want it. You get Unleash Elements as well, which someone's mentioned, because I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. It's a very lackluster ability. You get to use it. So it basically does something based on the imbue of your weapon, right? So Resto typically will always have Earth Living. Ellie will almost always have Flame Tongue, and Enhancement will have Wind Fury on their main hand, Flame Tongue on their offhand. So it increases your fire damage of your next, increases the damage of your next fire spell for Flame Tongue, increases your attack speed, I'm going to say, for Wind Fury, and Earth Living. It increases the effectiveness of your next heal by a crazy amount. Next single target heal, very specifically, because you can't use it for like Earth Healing Rain or things like that. So yeah, I mean, it's something to use on the move. It's something that you'll use to like get a bigger flame shock for your duration of your flame shock. But it's not a massive ability. It's mainly going to get macroed into flame shock for most specs. For Ellie, it's only worth using if you lava burst and flame shock at the same time. Yeah, so like it's a couple of different effects, but it's a nice, if you're like moving between mobs or something, just as you're running in, pop that, and it's something you can do on the move. I want to talk about Focused Insight because I feel like it's so underrated and probably one of the biggest skill things of Shaman. So after casting any shock spell, your next heal mana cost is reduced by 25% of the cost of the shock spell, and it's healing. Well, sorry, that's the first rank of it. It's 3 talent points, so you can do this 3 times. So 75%.
Where am I looking?
Resto, Shaman, second tier on the third talent. So you will be shocking a lot as Resto just to be able to use that. And if you need a big heal, Frost Shocks cost slightly more off the top of my head, if I remember rightly. So you could cast that to get a bigger mana return and things like that. Like you can use different things to maximize it. So, and it snapshots all of your heals. So this is one of the major things that they do for healing. The Atonement Healing Rain spec is where you're doing damage constantly. You keep shocks up and use your shocks to buff your healing rain, so it does a lot more healing.
Yeah, 30% is a lot.
Yeah, that's massive.
Yeah. One of the biggest changes for Enhancement, and probably my favorite change for Enhancement, is the Lava Lash change, so if you go to the 4th row, 3rd talent on the right, Scott, of Enhancement, your Searing Totem now applies a dot to the target that you can consume with Lava Lash. And that Lava Lash will hit very hard. And it's extremely fun and very fun to do because, it is cool. It also then spreads your Flame Shock to other targets nearby with the improved version, which is further down. So, like, Lava Lash becomes something that almost doesn't feel like you ever want to press it in Wrath to, oh my god, it hits very hard and is very fun to press.
All right,
in,
cool.
like, every situation. So, like, everything has, like, every class, every spec feels better than it does in Wrath. Is the takeaway from this, I guess.
But not massively dissimilar. It's sort of, that's what I see. It's like, well, maybe Resto, because all healers go through a little bit of an overhaul, but, like, you're using similar abilities, like, like you might look at it from the outside looking in as the play style looks similar, but it's just all better.
Like even Resto, I would say Resto is one of the least changed specs in Cata of the healers. The biggest addition is Healing Rain, actually, which is ground targeted healing, which is very, very strong. It gives Shammies a way to like residual heal as well as their totems. So you get between just Healing Rain, keeping Healing Rain on the group, Earth Living, and Healing Stream Totem, you can do more healing than some healers will be doing.
And Healing Rain does look great as well. As a dwarf. Only as a dwarf.
It does look cool. Yeah, it's just mini beers. It's just spilt beer everywhere.
It looks like my desk.
Tanks can still grief shamans by moving out of like flame shock totem. What is it called? Lava totem.
So Searing Totem will now prioritize, and this is one of the biggest enhancement quality of life things. Thank you, because I'd actually forgotten about it. It will now prioritize your flame shock target and has like 40-yard range. So if you want to grief me, you can move it 42 yards away, but I just won't DPS. That is your choice. And Healing Stream Totem, if you want to move more than 40 yards away, then that's your choice as well. But I will also just cry about it.
I'll leave.
Like Earthshock also gets a bit of a buff in Cata, where like Earthshock is going to be so strong for like those early heroics where your tanks walk in and just get half health chunked. It's it's good.
I'm just trying to get it up here. What are we saying? Earthshock.
Yeah, it hasn't changed in any way. It's just scaled a little bit better. And it means that you can actually just put it on the tank and almost forget about them, like between residual healing elsewhere.
Hang on. Earthshock.
Earth Shield.
Oh, Earth Shield. Sorry. That's why I was getting confused. Yeah. I was like, I'm looking, I'm like, I don't get how this is going to do any healing. Yeah, Earth Shield.
Oh. I mean, you also have Earthshock has changed with Fulmination.
Yeah.
You know, you can hit someone with the, stick a flame shock on a target and then drop a lava burst 9-stack Fulmination and just one-shot someone in PvP. Enhancement, because we haven't really talked about the other specs in PvP. Resto Shami is incredible for PvP. They're one of the safest healers. And Enhancement is like the king of 1v1ing. If you see an Enhancement Shami and you go, I'm going to gank this person because, they're half health, it should be an easy kill, they're going to turn around, pop 15 pets out, Bloodlust, and insta-kill you.
I've tried that multiple times before. I can confirm. Yeah.
So, I mean, overall, it's just Shami in general. Like, it's got to a point where I planned on maybe having a Shaman ult in Cata, but wasn't maining one, to I've done 6 levels on my new Shaman in this podcast.
Yeah, you need to be a Shaman. You need to be making Shaman content. 100%. For these boys.
I've resold myself on it, and I hate it a little bit, but...
Right, boys, I think that's where we're going to have to call it. I am now in a GDKP. Oh, God. Anyone who's got to the end of the podcast and that's the last thing they've heard me say is I'm in a GDKP, they're going to be like, oh, fuck you. You're adding to the problem.
Oh, well, video's getting disliked. Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
But
hey,
at least
everyone
they're not going to say ghost smells on this one. They're going to be like, Scotty's doing fucking GDKPs.
Yeah, fuck GDKPs. I need to get some more gold before Cata, so sorry, I've had to do it. But obviously, we said 2 hours. It's been... around 2 hours, and I feel like we've got a lot out of it. If we feel like we need... If you want more Shaman, and you've got this far into the VOD, comment saying we want more Shaman, and then we'll do a second part.
And what you would like discussed.
Yeah, if you want more PvP, more PvE, whatever you want discussed, because Jay has literally done it all. So, like, we can absolutely all get together and talk about Shaman more. Just say... But for now, we will be signing off. I'm going to be over on kick.com/Scottejaye. If you want to come and join me, I'm going to be doing I'm in RS at the moment, RS 25, and then ICC 25 heroic, GDKP. I'll be there for a couple of hours getting absolutely fucking hammered. Where can we find you, Go, if you decide to go on stream after this?
I won't tonight, but I have started streaming back on Twitch. So you can find me at twitch.com/ I don't even remember what my handle is. Let me look that up. But you can find me on YouTube as well if you're interested in any Balance Druid Cataclysm stuff. If you want to see somebody that has done Lore Master on the beta, come check me out and ask me what is wrong with me.
Still annoys me.
Yeah, he still annoyed me as well. I looked down and started wiping the floor. There's nothing even on the floor. All right, so that you can find that Go Geezer somewhere. I weren't really listening. Jay, where can we find you?
On my YouTube channel, of which I'm going to make videos sometime soon.
All right.
Probably about my new Shaman that I've definitely just made. Yeah, I mean, I'm getting back into it. Shaman is fun, and on MidJ at YouTube. I've just hit 3K subs as well.
Grats.
Hell yeah.
So let's go get him to 5K, 10K. Fuck it, let's get him to 100K. I've started to miss the days. I moaned at him before we started the stream. I was like, are you going to start putting some fucking YouTube videos on or what? Because I used to wake up, like, Jay is my peak toilet material. And that sounds like a bad thing, but it's not. I'd wake up and be like,
Really
do you know what? I'm going to go sit on the toilet. What's Jay done today? And then I would literally watch a Jay video, and he's just stopped doing them as much. So we need to show him loads of love and get him fucking making content every day again.
I know when Scott's had like a curry night because my crowd engagement and my average view time goes up.
Nice.
Oh man, no, honestly though, yeah, everyone check Go out, check Jay out. We're gonna be checking out now. See what I've done there. And we'll be back probably in about 48 hours. Go don't know yet, but we'll be back in 48 hours, and we'll be talking about other things. We're going to be talking about all the first tier of raids, dungeons, heroics, all that kind of thing. We haven't quite nailed the day down yet, have we? But it's going to be like in the next couple of days.
Cool. Yeah.
Sweet.
We need to get Majay's, just so there's a record of this before you end it, we need to get Majay's link in the description, because right now it's Subtles, and that link for Subtle doesn't work. So
it's not Subtles. I've fucking done this tonight. I done it before we went live. What is it with the links? Like, am I really that bad at doing links?
You need a link editor or something, man. Like, get Nest on the job, bro.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Honestly, I literally done it before. Like the app, when I put at Classic Go, for example, it then apparently don't work. I'm doing it right now. I'm updating I'm going to probably die in the raid. It's a GDKP. I don't end up getting fucking kicked before this finishes. Jay, gaming. Then I copy it and paste it, and it goes. I've done it.
Is it weird that I'm sat in the Orc starting area and there's suddenly 3 Shambies that popped up? Convenient? I think not.
No, they're all on the Shaman bandwagon. Let's go. Well, I've done it. I mean, if it's not right and it's not there, I don't know what to tell you. But I'm going because I need to jump on the other Discord, need to fire the stream up, all that good jazz. Right. Thank you, guys. You're absolute legends. Everyone in chat, thank you for the super chats. Maybe you've got like 5 seconds before I finish speaking. You get more super chats in. But don't feel like it's got to be super chats. You can do super thanks as well. Super thanks. A little weird icon. You've probably not noticed it before. But press that button.
We've had one.
We've had one. We've had one. I mean, maybe no one's particularly thankful of the shit that we do. I can't blame them.
But we are thankful of Jay. Thanks again for coming back for like the 16th time. I appreciate it, bro.
I mean, my chair's starting to feel a little bit used here now. I mean,
I've just realised I've been DPSing this RS25 with my fishing rod.
Nice.
I'm not even joking. I was like, why can't I Crusader strike or anything? What's going on here? Oh yeah, fishing rod. Right, cool. Good night, guys. Love you all. Peace out.
Tie up.
Laters.
I'm going to do the awkward... I need to leave it here just for a minute, because YouTube's a bit weird. It, like, takes a minute before it actually goes off. So I'd rather it goes off and we're not talking about anything. So